Haven't even sipped my coffee yet.
No?
But I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to do it.
Okay. Ready?
1 second. I think I'm good.
Okay. Welcome back to our podcast, Moline Method Mic'd. I'm Kelly, licensed pharmacist, functional medicine consultant, wife, and new mom.
And I'm Landon Moline, husband to Kelly Moline, and father of our little baby Danielle.
Yeah, you asked me how often do we need to do these intros? I'm like, well, people could listen anytime. So here we are. Okay, so I want to get your take on what happened to me this week.
Oh boy.
Or I guess last week maybe now. So
Who I got to fight. I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah. So someone was asking me how Danielle was doing. And, I usually say, great, perfect. She's amazing, which she is. But we were definitely struggling with sleep. And I talked about it some on the podcast here, how it was taking several hours sometimes to get her to bed. And she said, absolutely not. You need to sleep train her. My pediatrician said, cry it out. And she's like, it took a couple of nights. We did an hour and a half of crying first night, 45 minutes of crying the next night. It will hurt your heart. It's so hard, but so worth it. Her daughter is now like 18 now. And she's like, she slept great ever since. So she was definitely pro sleep training, but to the point where she said, if we don't do it, then we're going to struggle like her friends struggled and have a bratty toddler. And really,
toddler?
Yeah, like you're really going to struggle. You're going to regret it if you don't. So I wanted your take on this as how we take unsolicited advice. And I think usually it comes from a really good heart and people can approach it in different ways. But what do you think about this?
So do you want my take on the advice she gave or the way she gave it?
Both.
Okay. Okay, so it's like a two-part
Because we
question.
also, I should say, we've said that we're not really sleep training. We're kind of gently sleep training where we're trying to get to a 7 to 7 schedule. She goes to bed around 7 p.m., give or take, depending on the day. If she skips naps, we're usually doing it a little bit earlier. If it just doesn't work out, it can be a little bit later. She usually gets up around 7. She's sleeping typically like 10 or even sometimes more, sometimes less hours straight throughout the night. So I would say she's doing pretty good on that. Naps are here and there, and then sometimes going to bed is here and there. So yeah, we're like gently sleep training is what I'm trying to say. So without doing cry it out, which has just been our preference. I know we talked about before we had a baby, we're like, yeah, I think sleep training's great. If they need to cry, they're learning to self-soothe and all that. And then we decided not to go that route, as we've seen other things saying they're not really self-soothing. They're just like giving up on their parents coming for them. And that didn't really set well with me, at least.
Yeah, I think, I was raised that sleep training was the way to go, and so I thought that's what I would do when I became a parent, was just sleep training and cried out method. But I don't know, she's just so adorable, it's hard to like just let her cry. But yeah, I think it's hard to tell. I mean, it's hard to tell if she's really feeling like abandoned and just giving up when she just eventually cries herself to sleep, or I was thinking maybe, they're just trying to manipulate, see what they can get away with and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, she's too young to really think of that stuff. So my opinion's changed on it. I do want her to know, and feel secure that she can count on us to come get her if something's wrong and all that. It's hard to know what resonates with kids when they're so young like this. But for now, I don't think it's like a manipulation thing. And I want to know if she is upset or crying that we will be there. So I get that kind of concept, because I think those emotions or those feelings kind of stick with kids growing up. So then I've kind of drifted away from the cry it out method, but also I've had a little more time at home, and so that tends to work. But if you're busy, as a single parent or whatever, or even just if you're home alone with the kid and you have
multiple kids.
If you have, especially if you have multiple kids. I think, I was raised in a family of 5 boys, and I think my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and she had to use the cried out method because she didn't have the time to stay in the bedroom with us and try to like soothe us to sleep every single time we woke up and started crying. So I think it made sense in that aspect. So I think there's different things you have to consider when you're deciding whether to sleep train with cried out method or not.
And my thing on this is like every parent can decide themselves, I guess is my take. And we kind of see both sides, and we right now decide not to do cry it out. And we do let her cry sometimes and see if she can fall back to sleep on her by herself. But when she's escalating or she's crying over or fussing over a period of time and doesn't seem to be going back to sleep, that's like when we've stepped in recently. So I guess now, what's your take on that kind of advice? Because do you want me just to give you my take, or can you say your take on that?
Yeah. So I guess on getting unsolicited advice, I think there's just better ways to go about it than just, saying you're going to have issues and you're going to have problems based on like my experience with it. Because I think every baby's different, and I think people are in just different times of life. I mean, I just think that you got to be careful like how you approach something, especially, I mean, how you give any advice affects how someone takes it. Because if you're more aggressive and just like condescending or kind of rebuking a little bit in your advice, I don't think it's going to bode well with the person receiving that advice. So I think I think the way you received the advice was a little aggressive and
So the way I took it, or
no, sorry, the way that it was given. I don't think you should just go and blast someone's parenting style and say they're gonna have a bunch of issues. I do get like she was probably trying to be helpful, and so and just say like, oh, you don't want to do that because you're gonna have issues. But there's also other things to consider, like, okay, have you only had one kid, so that's the only experience you're going off of? Like, how long ago was that? Because I think parenting styles have changed. People have come up with like different methods and different theories and stuff like that. So I think there might be more evidence showing a different method is more effective, and she might not be doing the research because she hasn't had a newborn for 10-15 years. So
yeah.
That's kind of where I'm coming from. I think that like you got to be a little more gentle when you're saying, oh, okay, like that's what you're doing, like that might work. You could say, this is what I did, and kind of approach it that way. Like, this is what I did. It seemed to work really well, and they can either decide to take the advice or not. But to just be like, you are going to have issues if you do it that way. It's like, did you ever try that way? Because it sounds like you only had one kid. So.
Yeah. Well, and I think her evidence is her child, right?
Yeah.
She's like, this is what we did, and look how good of a sleeper she is now, which I totally get. I've also learned that babies can be very different and they have different personalities. Some things may work better for others. So I get where she's coming from, and I do think it's coming from a good heart, but the delivery for me, I felt a little attacked in the moment. And I like what you said of this is what I did. And I've also heard people just ask right away, like, when you're venting or your wife is venting to you, right? And you say, do you want a listener or do you want advice? Because I think those are two different mind frames. And so if someone is coming to me and they could be, now that I've like gone through, let's say, the newborn phase or pregnancy, right? And they're complaining, and I can also see myself stepping in and saying, oh, this is what worked well for me. This is the only way to do it, right? This is the best way because I've done this kind of research. Well, like, everybody is different too. And just because it worked well for me doesn't mean it will work well for them, or even they just may not want to try that. And that's okay too, because they don't want to, because they have different beliefs, whatever, or they've researched something completely different. But I feel like I need to keep myself in check in the same aspect of like, should I try to listen, or do you want advice with this? Or like, this is what worked well for me doesn't mean you need to do it. You can have your own decisions, and that doesn't mean it's wrong, doesn't mean I'm wrong. They can both be good decisions, right? So yeah,
I think with any kind of advice or I mean, most things you're dealing with, I think that there are always going to be multiple ways you can do it, and they might both be right. They're just different methods. So I think it's important to just be a little more gentle when you're approaching giving advice. But yeah, I think,
especially with a postpartum mom, because I'm a little sensitive sometimes.
I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we're all just trying to figure this out. I think, in parenting, you're going to make mistakes and stuff. So I love advice. I mean, I love, sharing different methods at work. But yeah, I think coming from an attacking perspective, or what felt like more of an attack, is a little aggressive. But that brings up a question too. So this person that gave you advice had a kid. What would you feel about someone that didn't have a kid giving you advice on how to deal with your kid or how to sleep train or anything like that?
I'd almost think that it would roll off my back a little bit easier because I'm kind of negating a little bit what they're saying because they haven't had a kid yet, right? Oh yeah, that's great in theory, but this is why I'm not choosing not to do that. Where someone who's already had it and they're coming from experience, they come at it stronger and they're like, this is why. I'm like, wow, you make a really good point. But yeah, it feels a little naive when people come at it who haven't had a kid and they're trying to give me some sort of unsolicited advice. But I think in the same point, they've thought about it, right? They could have done the research as well. They could be planning, or they could be pregnant, right? And so they've done the research too and really think about it. But it's different, the research versus having a baby. And in the same point, we've done research on how we want to parent or discipline our child. But when it comes down to it, we don't have a child to discipline yet. She's just a baby. So she's not going to understand it like she would when she's older. So even though we've thought about it and we have a plan, that can very well change or could be just different baby to baby.
Yeah, I think, and the reason I asked the question is because I think when I was visiting with my brother, we were talking about different things we do with the baby and how we're raising her and stuff. And he has a friend that has a baby, and he's watched the baby quite a bit, and and hangs around the baby. So, and he's also observed them as parents and what they do and what their styles are. Sure. So, but he kept on phrasing everything before, which it's super nice. It's really a different approach than just attacking. He was like, "Well, have you tried?" He's like, "I don't have a baby, and so I don't know, but have you tried this or have you done that?" And eventually I had to say hey, it's okay, you don't have a baby. That's totally fine. It doesn't mean your advice is invalid because Sure. You've obviously observed, thought about it, considered what you might do as a parent. So, and I do think going through the experience is a lot different than observing it when it's your own baby. So you might do things a little differently than you thought you were gonna. But I thought his approach was it was really kind, and he's
throwing the disclaimer out there.
Yeah, I don't have a kid, but have you tried this? Because I've seen this work, and I was like, it's okay, you don't have a kid. I still like the ideas, the advice, and stuff like that. So just because you don't have a kid doesn't mean your advice is invalid. But I think it is different when you actually experience having a kid because you might do things differently. I know that we thought we were going to do stuff a certain way, and then when we had the kid, we've changed our minds or we've pivoted a little bit. So yeah, I just thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
What was I going to say? I don't know. I lost it.
So should we go into our topics for the day? We're doing things a little differently today.
Okay. So you had a good topic.
I had a good topic.
Yeah, you had an idea. You wanted to talk about balancing parenthood, marriage, and your identity.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I'd love, this is something I'd love to get other people's take on as well, because obviously we're going through it, but I think there is a huge change when you have a kid, obviously, and they get thrown in the mix with how you manage your time and how you, because I think, like you said, I've written down parenthood, your relationship with your kid, your relationship with your partner, and then like your like self identity and the time you take to yourself to maybe it's a hobby or just something that you find enjoying. I mean, for some people it's like reading a book or you know, playing a sport or whatever. So how do you manage that when you have this baby? Everything shifts. It becomes pretty much all about the baby. And so I feel like sometimes people can lose themselves in the parenthood portion of their time and kind of not, or kind of neglect their like self-identity side. How do you manage time differently than you did when you were just significant others? Just, I mean, when you didn't have a kid.
Yeah, and I've seen this especially with moms. I know a mom whose kid is going to college. She's like, I've been a mom to this boy for 18 or so years, and that's who I am. That's what I know. I've spent so much time and invested so much of myself into them that when they leave, I don't even know who I am. Or I've seen where like your parents, and when you are left alone with your partner, sometimes the marriage doesn't work after that because you've been more parents than spouses to each other as well. And, you know, when they say, like, before you get married, that you need to find yourself first and be a good individual before you can be a good spouse. And they also say you need to be good spouses to each other to also be like the best parents. Obviously, you can co-parent and single parent as well, but I think everyone agrees the best, typically with an asterisk, the best life typically for the kid is to have like both parents there that love each other. That's the ultimate goal. No one tries to go into it being like single parent or looking for a divorce or anything like that. And there are definitely circumstances that might be the better option for the family, but we need to like be good spouses to each other, be good individuals while also being that good parent. But I do think like the first year, I've heard, is just really hard with the baby because they do take so much time and so much energy. You're not getting as much sleep. So everyone's like the first year is kind of a blur and then you kind of go from there.
Yeah. And I've just been thinking like long term because, yeah, of relationships I've seen kind of disintegrate into like the parenthood. And I'm like, okay, I don't want that to be us and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, the more I thought about it, I was like, okay, it seems like, you know, you're better parents when your marriage is clicking because that kid has a view of a healthy marriage and what that looks like. And you're better in marriage when you still are able to maintain your self-identity. So it kind of like trickles down where it's like you're going to be a better partner if you're still able to, you know, take some time to yourself and, you know, and maintain like whatever it might be, a hobby or whatever, but that self-identity is going to help you in marriage. And then being better partners and just a better couple in marriage is going to help you be better parents. So it's not just like you're just attacking this parenthood thing as like co-partners in this, you know, trial run of something or like this task. You know, you don't want to just be like going through it together and then you get out and you don't know who you are, you don't know how to talk to each other anymore, all that kind of stuff. So I think it all kind of works together in a sense, but then it's like, okay, well then how much time do you take to yourself and like, and when can you take that time? Because babies have needs, especially in that first year, like you said. So it's like, okay, when do you get back to that? When's a good time for that? And how do you balance that all out? I feel like there's so many different ways you could do it, but like, that's my major question topic.
So what are your ideas, or do you want me to go?
Well, yeah, I guess.
I think that's a great question.
It is a great question. I think we're still figuring that out. I think, you know, especially this first like 6-7 months has been more focused on the baby. And I think it's been like hard to do those other things on the side and focus on anything else, but, you know, making sure the baby's good and we've taken care of her and, you know, she's thriving. So, but like now I feel like there's kind of been a little bit of a shift. Things are starting to slow down on the parenthood side as far as like things are, we can't really get into a full routine, but like we're kind of figuring it out. Things are mellowing out. So my thoughts are, making sure, in order to make sure that we still have time, because I think parenthood just comes naturally. You're going to do those things for your kids. So then, basically, I think it's important to maintain date nights and make sure those are regularly scheduled, so you have something to look forward to as a couple, and you're taking time to yourselves where without the baby.
How
Have a
often?
babysitter. Oh, well, I mean, goodness, I don't have those specifics. I would say,
What's your opinion?
let me say, okay, at least once a month, if not more. Probably more than that. I don't know.
I'd say like twice a month.
Twice a month date night.
Yeah. I mean, it can obviously differ like what phase of life you're in, but I think with how things are going right now, twice a month feels more doable.
Yeah, I mean, it also depends on like, okay, well, maybe you're going to be going to like a wedding and spending a ton of time together, like traveling and stuff too, so you might not have as much time for date nights. But I think twice a month's probably good. I mean, again, it's probably not perfect. I'm just throwing out ideas. And then I think,
So that's like the marriage aspect, right?
yeah, but I think also then, depending on how much time you need to yourself, I guess this is all again based on your own like needs and stuff. But I like to do.
Wait, let's go back to the date nights, right? That's your idea. What about people that, so we're fortunate enough that your mom is here and can typically step in if we give her enough time ahead of time to ask if she can babysit. What about people that don't have that luxury of someone to watch?
Like if you can't find a babysitter?
So babysitter can be an option, but a lot of people maybe like, finances are tough typically. So adding a babysitter twice a month can get really expensive. So what other like still going on the date night idea, what can we do that doesn't necessarily break the bank, but you can still have that time together?
It sounds like you have an idea, but I would say I guess you could do a date at home. I mean, you can plan something out for after the kid goes down to bed. You could do a little like date night, maybe cook in the kitchen or whatever at home. Do a puzzle. I don't know.
Yeah.
And just kind of plan out a specific time that works for you guys, or hopefully you're not staying up too late, but like it's designed to like, okay, we're gonna connect and do this together and spend this quality time uninterrupted. Hopefully, if the baby keeps sleeping. But
yeah, right. That's always the thing.
That's the risk.
We think that she goes to bed at 7, and then 8 comes around, she's awake. 8:30 comes around, she's awake, and then maybe.
Well, that's what makes it tough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess you just have to roll with that if you don't have a babysitter.
Yeah, you have to give yourself grace and stuff, and be flexible. But yeah, I like your idea of when they go to bed. Now we have this time, even if we aren't going out, whether that's cooking together. I think the point is like quality time, and we're not just trying to shut off our brains and watch Netflix. We're like spending time together, whether that's a game or a puzzle or just talking, and that looks different than our normal evening.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Yeah.
So even if we can't leave the house, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And I've also seen where, because I think it can get to where one person in the relationship is like planning everything every time, and then it doesn't feel reciprocated, because like I feel like this is hypothetical, I'm putting in all the work, and I'm like, I'm really trying for this marriage and making sure that we're getting that time, and then the other person is just showing up and they're fine with it, right? They're like, yeah, date night sounds good, and they're fine with that, but they're just like showing up. So I've also seen where people do like every other, where like I'll plan the evening, what we're cooking or the activity, and then next time you will, or where we're going out or doing that. Or you can kind of split it where like someone can plan the dinner portion, whether that's cooking or going out, and then the other person can plan the activity. I like that too.
Yeah, I don't think it's that hypothetical. I think that you've told me before, like, hey, I want you to plan out the date and stuff if I haven't done it in a while. Like I do like planning out days and stuff like that, but every once in a while, like you might have planned out 3 or 4 in a row, and then you're like, hey, you're gonna take these. I know you do like that back and forth, and there have been times where I haven't realized, oh man, I guess I haven't planned one out in a while. So
Yeah, but
it
I
happened.
think it's also going the other way as well. So
Yeah.
I didn't mean to say that I always plan it. But yeah, it just sometimes it doesn't feel as reciprocated. So having, and I know it's not like this super romantic to be like, okay, let's split up this task. But when we're talking about like parenting and then the mental load that comes with planning the date and stuff as well, it feels like we're adding more on top of the plate instead of like enjoying the marriage. Like the point of it was to relax and have communication together or have quality time together, but then it just feels like more work than it was worth. So I like the idea of just being aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the date night and quality time because I like quality time, that we're not like on our phones and we're not watching TV and just have like our brains turned off. Obviously, some nights I really enjoy that because you've had a long day and I don't want to like get into everything and I just want to sit and chill. But
Yeah. I think another thing too is like when you go on that date, I think because you're co-parenting the entire day, every day, it's kind of important to then maybe not talk about parenting when you're on the date and kind of shut that off for a
oh,
second.
that's hard.
Because that's all you talk about all day long, and to find something different to talk about. I feel like that's because sometimes I find that we go out on a date and we're just literally talking about, okay, so we gotta plan for this, we gotta do that. And I'm like, we're still co-parenting on this date.
Yes. So getting into that, you have to have like something to talk about, right? And if you're together all the time or parenting together all the time, you don't find like other things to really talk about. So that's where the individuality comes in, and the self identity of you're doing stuff by yourself, or you have a hobby, or you have a book, or you're going out with friends, and like keeping that self identity. So do you have ideas on that? Because that's something that you could bring into like your marriage and talk about that, so you're not just always talking about parenting or your time together.
Yeah, I mean, I have the way I like to do it and stuff like that. I have a lot of hobbies, so
You
I
do have a lot of hobbies.
time management for those has been really tough because
Tell them your hobbies.
all of them.
Some of
Nah,
them.
I mean I play cornhole a lot down in Texas. TCO cornhole is really big, so I do that pretty competitively. I like to fish. I also like to golf.
You've
Uh,
gotten a lot more into golfing lately.
yeah, I think it comes in seasons a little bit. When it gets too hot to go out on the boat and fish, it's more like golf or cornhole. But yeah, and I mean, I'm big into sports and like watching them or playing them in
Yeah.
general. But yeah, I mean,
You're
those are my
really
main
into your
hobbies.
fantasy leagues right now.
Yeah,
And you
fantasy football's coming
created
up.
a dynasty league. And so
Yeah.
you've done a lot of research on that. I'm impressed with how much research that goes into that and how much you can research that. But you love it. And then, yeah. And then just like chilling, you play video games with your brothers. That's how you guys like keep in communication and stuff too.
I game a little bit. Yeah. So yeah, I've got several hobbies. And so those have to be managed. You can't just be doing those constantly and stuff like that because there's other things to do. So I try to take time like once a week at least to go do one of those things, just to kind of get away. I think, I don't know, and this is just me, I'm pretty competitive, and I think guys in general tend to have like a need to like compete, if, like in some way, shape, or form. I don't know, and maybe it's just me, but that's so I like to do that. It kind of gets my mind off of everything else because you're focusing on the task at hand, and so it's kind of a nice like thing, a nice getaway or whatever, where you're not thinking about anything else but like the sport you're playing or what you're doing, and just kind of refreshes you or kind of resets things a little bit. But yeah, what do you like to do? You like to read? You're a big bookworm. You like to research everything.
I don't know if I like, so yes, I do research a lot and I enjoy it to a point, but it's still like work. I just like knowing and I want to make good decisions, I guess, because I don't like all this is coming new to me. So I like to do that. But yeah, right now I would say the thing I do outside of the house is like hang out with friends.
Mm-hmm.
We have like a mom meetup group on Mondays, and I go every other Monday because I also have like a Bible study group every other Monday.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll meet up with people and like communicate that way. A lot of times I bring Danielle with me if it's during the day. So I'm not necessarily like putting off being a mom in a way. Like it's still like that work, and then I just bring her with. But yeah, I don't have a lot that I'm doing outside of the house right now.
Yeah, I think meeting with friends is usually like your go-to, whether it be
Yeah.
in a Bible study, in uh, like watching a certain TV show group, or just going and meeting for lunch or brunch with like a friend that also has a kid, and then you just take the kid with. Yeah, it's kind of your thing. But
Yeah.
other than that, you just like reading a lot.
Yeah. Well, I don't like that I was getting too much into scrolling while nursing
Mm.
because nursing can take a while, and I didn't like how much I was scrolling. So then I got my Kindle and charged it, and I'm reading on that because I like physical books, but that's a lot harder to do while nursing because you have to like manage the whole book in one hand. And then when I'm nursing in the dark, I obviously can't read. So Kindle is nice for that. So I've been reading more to stop scrolling as much.
Yeah. And but recently though, so with that, all that stuff, because I mean, managing that amount of time, how much time can you take to yourself? I think depends on how much you and your partner have that like to work on, or like that you have that's on your task list or your to-do list. And I think we heard something recently that was super helpful, and like called like the mental load. And it's kind of this, the mental, I mean, a lot of times a mother kind of carries a mental load. She has all these things listed out in her head of like that need to be done for the baby, for the household, all that kind of stuff. And for whatever reason, like guys don't typically think of as much about that kind of stuff. And so I sensed that when I was going and golfing or doing something like that to myself, you get really frustrated sometimes, and it would kind of be this pent up like frustration, and it would affect like your mood and just like the way you talk to me. And then come to find out like, okay, there's this mental load or this to-do list in your head that is constantly growing with all the different things we need to plan on. And that could be baby proofing the house for when she's going to crawl and all this kind of stuff that's going to come up in the near future. And so we listened to something that was very insightful on like how to share that and talk about that, so that you know that, okay, now is a good time to go and take some time to go do your own hobby and stuff like that, because that mental load is being shared by both partners. And I think that's really important. That'll make for a better marriage and just being better parents in general. So I thought that was super helpful. And so like now, more recently, I've been trying to make sure, like, hey, what's on your mental load right now, and make it be like the mental load is like the enemy or the thing we need to attack. So we're a team trying to make sure that everything is checked off that list, and like, or at least everything that we can do right now, and that it's not just continuing to grow unchecked.
Yeah, it's me and you against the mental load, not me versus you.
Yes. Because I think, yeah, the more things that would grow on that, you would be like getting more stressed because you needed help with it, but you didn't necessarily want to share everything on that list because it's a lot. And so I think going through and being like, okay, what do we have coming up, and making sure that we kind of attack that list together has, like, it's basically allowed me to know, okay, this is a better time to go golf or whatever else, because I know that like that list is, we've taken a huge chunk out of it, and I don't think it's as crazy big as it was, because it just kind of constantly grows because the baby's developing and learning different things and developing new skills in which you have to do different things for it and plan ahead. So, yeah.
And I think I was a little naive to the point where I had like this big list of what we needed to get done for me and for her throughout the day. And you said, I have my own mental load too. And I have a list going on in my head. And it didn't really like occur to me that much that you also had things that needed to get done. So what I like that we've been doing recently, I'm a big to-do list person, and you are too. And we like to cross things off our list, but we've put it all on one list. So it's not like my list versus your list.
Mm-hmm.
It's like our list together and what can we accomplish on this. And obviously, like, you're naturally going to take some tasks and I'm naturally going to take some tasks. But it's like, okay, let's tackle this more together so that, you know, we can have like a less mental load. But I like that we've been doing that because it does feel like we're more of a team and like not trying to compare lists and not trying to like keep track that way.
Yeah, I think there's less of a scoreboard aspect when we're like attacking the list together, and it's not like, oh, like I've done more than you. It's just like, okay, here are the things that we need to get done, and we just go for it. And because you really can't keep score, and I think it's just kind of, it helps the teamwork aspect, and then you're both on the same page as far as what is on your mind as far as like what needs to get done, so you're not stressing about stuff that I have no idea exists. So I think that's super important. I think that's helped us a lot, just communicate what needs to get done. And you can do that even before you have a kid, but yeah.
And like some days, like a few days ago on Monday, the list was very long. And so then I started starring the ones that like had to get done that day and leaving the ones unstarred that didn't necessarily have like a specific time frame. Like, yes, I want to get it done in the next couple days, but it doesn't necessarily have to be done today. And so that helped me prioritize the list as well and feel more accomplished. So even if I don't get everything done, it's not the end of the world and it can move on to the next day. But I do like how you prioritize stuff that you like to do, because I think I could learn from that as well. Because if I'm always focused on my to-do list and now the day goes by every single day and I never get to do something for myself, like then I can grow to resent you or resent Danielle. And I don't want to do that either. And I've also heard just in like a parenthood aspect that yes, you want to make sure like your child has a great childhood, but don't forget about like the day. Like you also want to make sure you're having a great day. Right. Mm-hmm. So I think that was a good look at it. Like I'm focused on making sure in general her childhood is really good and we're focused on all these like big things, but like, okay, what have we done today that's fun, right? Enjoying something on the day to day, so we're not resenting.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. So yeah, I think that's kind of like sums up, I guess, my thoughts on that subject in general. I don't know if you have anything else to add, but yeah, I think it's also fun too as the baby grows to have family date nights as well.
Yeah, family time.
I mean, my family would always usually eat supper together, and I really want to do that in the future when she can sit at the table and eat and stuff like that. So,
and we've even done that some now because she needs to like watch us eat to understand how the process goes. And she's pretty good in her high chair, so just having her sit there while we eat and we can talk about our day, I think is a good step to making that a routine. And then when she does get older, we already have that down too.
Yeah, exactly.
So I liked how recently, since we listened to that podcast about the mental load and doing stuff for ourselves and each other and all of that, and we put our like to-do list together. I like how, yes, you've prioritized, you know, stuff to have fun and your hobbies and stuff sometimes. I like that you've also more recently, because you've been more in tune to my mental load, you've also been like, hey, do you want to work out today too? And I've appreciated that. Especially like the past few days, you've kept in mind like what I can do individually so that I don't lose myself in parenthood as well. So I've appreciated that.
Yeah, no, I think it's been good. I don't know what you want me to say about it. Okay. Like, is there a question in there? I don't know.
No, I'm trying to give you like props of I've
Oh,
appreciated that, where I feel like before you've been in tuned of I don't want to lose myself. So these are like I'm going to go golfing, I'm going to take some time to myself, and then you've kind of let me, be with Danielle or whatever, and you're like, "But you like that." I'm like, "Yeah, but that's not really the point." And I want to do stuff as well. And so I think more recently you have understood my to-do list. So you've been trying to help me when I had like a mom meetup on Monday evening, and you're like, okay, let me make sure that I can help you with this list so that you can still go. And so that I'm not resenting you for you get to do stuff and I don't get to do stuff or whatever. And the day to day is not going to be equal, right? There's going to be days where I'm handling more of the load and you're handling more of the load, but I've appreciated that you've helped me with that too.
yeah, no. I mean, this week I haven't done anything for myself so far. So, but yeah, I think there's just going to be give and a take to it. And I think that making sure the list is well handled and both partners feel good about it before going and, taking time for yourself is super important. And I think there's a balance to it, and it's not always going to be perfect. And, you know, again, I think when it comes to taking time to yourself, it's important to make sure that you have the time to do that before just going and doing it, and making sure your partner is like comfortable with where the list is at or where the mental load is at before just going out and playing cornhole or golfing or taking time to yourself. Because that's one thing that I probably haven't done as well in the past, is just being like, okay, well, I've done like a ton of things on my list today before we shared the mental load and like put our list together. I was like, I checked off a ton of things on my list today. I'm going to go and like do something fun for myself today.
Sure.
And I would just do that. And like, meanwhile, you'd be sitting there with your mental load or your list and be like, oh, I checked off a couple things, but there's a ton I still want to do. And then I would just leave because I was like, oh, I'm going to go take my time to myself. And so then you'd be stuck here with the list that's on your brain and taking care of the baby. Most of the time I try to go when the baby's asleep, but yeah, so I think that I've just tried to be more mindful of like what you have on your list as well. And that's why combining them is just a better strategy, because then you know exactly what's on the list and you can kind of gauge whether or not now would be a good time to go do something by yourself.
Yeah. So anyway, I've seen that shift and I really appreciate it, especially after having a baby, because even if I have a list that I want to get done, I always say the day goes great if I don't have any things I need to get done, right? But if I have things that need to get done with her not napping or her eating more and cluster feeding, like it gets harder to make sure I get a list done by a specific time. But I like how you said it's about balance. It's not necessarily about perfection. So that leads me into our next topic that I wanted to talk about. So I saw on Instagram this week and I reposted it to my stories, like the 80% crunchy mom and what that means. And I tried to look it up again and I couldn't find it. But basically what the idea is that you prioritize health and these like crunchy, holistic, healthy things like 80% of the time, but then there's like 20% of the time or the stuff that you're still going to have as treats or you don't do like everything for. For example, 80% of the time you're having the organic mushroom coffee or a healthier coffee, but then 20% of the time you're going to go to Starbucks and have like a treat or whatever. And that's how your balance works. So I wanted to talk about how that like scale can be so vast and how it looks different for everyone and all of our priorities are different, and that's completely okay, because I think that we can, as a crunchy community, I've seen where people can also they can judge other people of like, oh, they're doing it that way, that's not really like the healthier choice, right? And I see that judgment kind of go across the board, or even the opposite of, oh, I know that they're like holistic and kind of crunchy, so if I'm doing it this way, they're going to judge me for it if it's not like the more healthy crunchy way. You know what I mean?
I think what you're trying to say is there's a spectrum to how crunchy someone can be, and not everyone is just 100% crunchy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless, you're living a
I mean, you
lifestyle.
can be 100%
Yeah.
crunchy, but I think you're saying like, yeah, there's a spectrum to it, and I know for us, we're not like 100% crunchy. We've kind of been changing things as we go, and I think we've gotten more and more crunchy, but we're still not like all the way.
Yeah. And I don't think it has to be your goal to be like 100% crunchy. I think there's definitely like that spectrum like we talked about, but you can kind of see yourself getting there, and there are healthy swaps that you can do over time. Like, for example, they talk about the chemicals and toxins in makeup, and like when your blush runs out, you can then look for an alternative that doesn't have as many chemicals or is a cleaner version. So you can make those swaps over time, so it doesn't feel like so overbearing right away and impossible to do. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about some of our swaps and then some things that we're not 100% crunchy on.
Okay. Well, I mean, you mentioned one of mine right away. Is the coffee.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've started drinking mushroom coffee. It's not the same, but it's growing on me. But yeah, I won't I'll still go to Starbucks here and there, or have a regular coffee here and there. Yeah, I would say 20% of the time is probably pretty accurate. Like 80% mushroom coffee and then 20% regular coffee. So it's not full go. Sometimes I just I gotta have a taste for my coffee. It's usually when I'm traveling is when I tend to go, okay, it takes more time to mix up mushroom coffee than to just grab a coffee at Starbucks or something. So I usually do that when I'm traveling more, but I try to stay pretty on point with mushroom coffee at home, but I still sometimes cheat on that.
Mm-hmm. We've swapped our laundry detergent, so it's a cleaner version, especially after having a baby, so it doesn't have all the chemicals in it. But when we travel, I bring the Tide Pods Free and Clear that I know isn't 100% like toxin free, and it has some stuff in it that we still don't love, but I know when we're traveling somewhere, it's likely still better than our alternatives that an Airbnb or someone might carry.
Yep. I used to drink exclusively out of plastic water bottles, and you've really gotten me off of that. I now have a glass water bottle. It took me a while. I was like, no, plastic's fine. I make sure I drink it all fast and stuff like that, and I like my plastic water bottle, but I got a glass one. It's nice and large, and so now I drink out of that. It's healthier than drinking out of plastic.
And we use filtered water, but we don't have the fancy machines. What is that called?
Like a Kangen, or there's a few different types, but yeah, we don't have that. So we're still drinking out of a filtered water machine out of our fridge.
And maybe that changes,
who knows?
later.
Maybe we'll get there. Yeah.
Right now, we haven't made that switch.
So it's 80%, but not quite all the way. Yeah.
We switched all of our Teflon stuff to ceramic and cast iron and stainless steel. But if we go somewhere else that's cooking with Teflon, it's not like we won't eat it too.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. And I mean, I don't know if this is crunchy, but we've also, same thing with I've gotten off of regular milk, like lactose. I've gotten full on almond milk and stuff like that. But if there's milk in something or cream cheese or whatever, I'm and I like my ice cream, so I'll still do that. But and I'm not lactose intolerant, but it's just better for your gut to not have that stuff.
Yeah, sometimes dairy can still cause that inflammation, and we're working more on your gut health, so you've kind of made that switch. I was thinking of something else. Organic produce, especially with the Dirty Dozen, like strawberries, apples, bell peppers, we're really focused on buying organic, or if we can't find it, there are some things I just like won't buy if I can't find organic, or we'll try to wash it. But like other fruits and vegetables, we don't care as much about.
And there are some things that were easier to change on than others. I think like we didn't really drink a lot of like pop or soda, whatever you call it, like when we first met anyway. But now if we do have any of that, we usually try to do like the poppy, the prebiotic sodas and stuff that are a little healthier, like kombucha type drinks. We don't do a lot of those other things. But I think that's a valid point where like some things are easier to give up than others, and so it's just like kind of like an evolution of becoming more crunchy, I guess, as you go. I think that like I'm more health conscious in general, and I never used to take so many like supplements and keeping, I guess, just like being much more mindful of what you're eating, and what you're putting in your body. I think that I used to never think as much as I do now about like, oh, what's in this and how is it going to affect my gut?
Yeah. And I saw something as well that was like, I used to be fun, and it was like, I used to be fun, but now I read the ingredients label for everything. And so I really resonated with that, because when I started reading the ingredients label, like let's say for barbecue sauce, and you read it, and most barbecue sauces start with high fructose corn syrup, and you're like, ooh, that's disappointing.
Sometimes I bring stuff home and you're like, next time you want to buy like this type of sauce, or it could be taco sauce, it could be like barbecue sauce. Shout out Sweet Baby Ray's, it's the best. But you're like, there's a lot of sugar in this, a lot of high fructose corn syrup or whatever, like you should try this brand instead. And you give me alternatives. And so then after we finish that bottle, we don't just throw the bottle out because we're not that rich. But like, yeah, no, I'll go and try to switch out to the alternative.
Yeah. And I appreciate you grocery shopping, so I don't want to take that win from your sales. Right?
Yeah, get it yourself.
I appreciate you taking the initiative to do a lot of the grocery shopping. So I just want to be like, hey, like, let's just look at the ingredient label a little bit more. And there's apps like the Yuka app I've used. And so you can scan it and it'll give you like a scale on there. But then you can spend a lot of time grocery shopping if you're really focused on that, which can be hard.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you doing the research on that stuff, because I am very much like almost everything I do, I've realized is I try to do things in the most efficient way possible. And I think that's just kind of part of my job, and with juggling like different teams and tasks. So even when it comes to the grocery store, I try to do things as efficiently as possible. I literally plan out and map out how I'm going to attack the grocery store so that I don't have to backtrack and go back to things. And I try to, I think most people do that, but like, yeah, I don't really do a lot of label reading. I just kind of grab whatever I know I like.
I know. And we're learning, but all that to say is there's different levels, and we're okay with that. And we learn as we go.
Exactly. Yep.
And we don't judge.
Work in progress, as they say.
Yep, exactly. All right. I think that concludes our topic. So should we end with a dad joke?
Of course. Let's do the dad joke. All right. It's a little longer one. I know this one. I've said it before, but I wrote it down because I want to make sure I get it right. Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Here it comes. 2 windmills were sitting on a hill. One asked the other, "Do you have a favorite song?" The other replies, "Well, all my life I've been a heavy metal fan."
Is that the joke? Yeah, that's good. Ish.
You can't like pause. It's a good one.
It's
Come
a
on.
heavy metal. Oh, wait.
I've been a heavy metal fan.
Yeah, I get it.
Because it's a windmill, you know.
I was like, heavy metal. Yes, I get it. And then the fan. Okay. Anyway, it's still morning. I haven't drank all
some
my
more coffee there. Come on now. That was a good one.
Yes, it's great.
People will use this one. They will tell their significant others and get a good laugh out of them.
Yes. We appreciate the dad jokes, Landon.
All right. Well, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, guys.
It's been fun. No. Make sure you go and like, subscribe, share with your friends. Give us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. Visit our website, molinmethod.com. Send in questions or topics for us to talk about at our Instagram, @molinmethod.
Or you can email me, kelly@molinmethod.com. And our next episode, we're actually going to dive deeper into a functional medicine topic. We're going to talk about hormone replacement therapy, so HRT. And so we'll talk about that, especially for our perimenopause or menopause or andropause for men. So we'll dive deeper into that conversation.
Nice. That sounds exciting.
Yep.
I don't know anything about that, so it'll be an all learning experience for me.
I have a lot of questions at the pharmacy and in that functional medicine world with my patients. So I had a request for a topic of HRT, and so we can dig more into that.
Perfect. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.